So before you get robbed by feds, uh, where they have no legal justification to take your money, but they're stealing your money from you anyway. Before that happens, if you're only leaving with a cashier's check and potentially wire transferring money over to another country where the money is already in your bank account, you don't have to worry about being robbed. But at the same time, even if you're not being robbed by the feds, because the US government will rob people, even if you're not being robbed by local law enforcement, because local law enforcement has a habit of robbing people, even if that's not the case, the fact is that you could be knocked off by somebody in the airport, before the airport, or after the airport. We're in between the bank account that you took the money out of in the US and the bank account that you're putting the money in whatever country that you're going to. So it's always important for you to have an alternative way to get your money to a safe location without having to have the physical capital in the trunk of your car. God forbid something happens to the car and now your money is either scattered all over the streets or in a burning flame of glory like Paul Walker. Either way it goes, you don't want anything to happen to your capital. So what you want to do is you want to find other ways to establish better, safe banking in other countries. And over the months, I'm going to be doing different shows about different countries and different banking systems and different business setups that can occur in certain countries and certain different financial markets in other countries, so that we can really start talking about doing some real international business. Since I talked to you guys about the IMF yesterday while we were dealing with the election, and as you can see, they have not resolved it. He's still 3 points away. So for some reason, they decided to take the day off and not finish counting the ballot. It shouldn't take that long to count 100,000 people. If you counted 355, you counted 300 million people. Now, I don't understand why the last 100 million is hard to count. You should just go ahead and get it over with. Drink you some coffee, take you a Red Bull, get in there and get it done. Shoot you a 5-hour energy drink, put some coconut butter on your fingertips, and get in there and finish counting those ballots so that we can go ahead and start fussing and arguing about your decision, because at least 47% of the population is going to be unsatisfied, if not 51% of the population, if the situation shifts in the next 48 hours. So regardless of how we look at it, we just have to understand that, yeah, things don't always go the way you want. Another advantage is you'll have easier access to your money, and no matter where you are in the world, you'll be able to transfer your funds, pay bills, and access your online accounts, all from the comfort of your own home or hotel room, wherever you're staying at. Got to remember that. Additionally, having overseas bank accounts can provide an added layer of financial security and privacy, where you'll be able to keep your finances separate from your US accounts, which can be beneficial for those of you who value your financial privacy. Now, what does that mean? Well, in the United States, when your money starts gaining more than 10% interest in the account, US banks have an obligation to tell the US government how much money is in your account and how much money you are making. Offshore accounts don't have that obligation to tell the US government what's going on with your money. Matter of fact, they also don't have an obligation to tell the US government that you even have any money in their country. So, if you did not want your money to be on the books, one of the best ways to establish that is to have offshore banking. Another thing that I've said before that is always very, very good is if you have the ability to funnel transactions under $9,000 out of one bank account into another bank account, even if that bank account is offshore. That offshore bank account would hold the full magnitude of the capital that the US government is not reporting to one another, which means that, remember when I told you about 1,000 bank accounts with over $200 in each one of them, where each one of them was gaining 10% interest or $10 of interest per month, regardless of how it regardless of how the interest would affect your thing. They're not reporting it because it's less than $10. And since they're not reporting it, if you made $50,000 of profit, that is nobody really cares that you got because it's spread across 1,000 bank accounts, and then you just wired that offshore at about $8,500 per transaction. You could shuffle your stuff over to another account in about 5 or 6 transfers, and nobody know the wiser, because nobody's talking about any interest earned. Nobody's talking about you can capital that nobody's paying attention to. And if you're one of those people that are a need to know basis when you're talking to your CPA, then A, make it do what it do. But you are only liable for anything that can be proven. So if it can't be proven, I'm not saying this is going to get you around some stuff. All I'm saying is that if your information isn't on record, no one has a record of the information. And it only exists if it's on record. You've only done it before if there's a record of you doing it before. So if you've never done it before, ideally, there's no record that you've done it before. And one of the funniest things about truth is the absence of proof is proof in and of itself. The absence of evidence. So in situations where they accuse you of not doing something, the absence of proof that you did it proves that you didn't do it. The burden of proof to prove that something was done, when there's a paper trail of stuff that is getting done and the paper trail vanishes and there's no paper trail of stuff getting done, that's when you're in a position where there's no proof that it's getting done anymore. And if there's no proof that it's getting done anymore, then the accusation is it's not getting done anymore. Prove to me that it is getting done, where they would have to bring the information that you don't have access to. Now, all of this leads to the understanding that if it doesn't exist, there's nothing to have proof of, which means there's nothing to bring to the table, which means there's nothing to show anybody. Now, this can have a counter effect if you're trying to show proof that you have wealth for whatever reason. I don't know why you would be trying to do that, because you should be leveraging the stocks and bonds and stuff that you have in America, not leveraging offshore accounts. You should never leverage offshore accounts. I don't care what anybody says. You should never leverage. Nobody should know if you've got an account in another country, your will and testament, the last one, not even the first one, your last will and testament shouldn't even have that in there unless you want somebody to get some of it. So, additionally, having overseas bank accounts can have and provide that layer of security that I was just explaining to you about, and you'll be able to keep your finances separate from your US accounts, which is going to be beneficial for those of you who don't want nobody to know what's going on. And I wanted to say this to you one more time, because if you're opening an overseas bank account, you can also provide tax benefits depending on your individual circumstances, which CPA Joe, I think his name is Matriano, Joe Matriano, the CPA that was on the show a couple weeks ago. Joe is one of those CPAs who can actually tell you about the tax benefits of offshore banking. Because remember when I told you a few months ago about the starting up a business in Japan, and they don't tax you for $120,000 worth of earned income in Japan if you report that you have a business in Japan to the US government. They won't even tax you up to $120,000 on that business. Fact is that if you have accounts in another country that you are reporting to the United States government, you have tax blankets in your country where you don't have to pay certain quantities of taxes for that currency. So imagine you have all this money in the US that is triple taxed, quadruple taxed, and then you have the rest of this money over in another country. It's not being taxed by the US government at all.